What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Cream City Cast, CreamCityCentrals.com's weekly Bucks podcast. I'm here with the birthday man himself, the inconsistent 22, Andrew Goodman. Happy birthday, man.
Thanks, Dylan. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's the Chris Middleton year, like you said earlier. Hope it's a consistent year for sure. Would have been nice to have the Bucks win. Yesterday's a little pre-birthday treat, but at this point, it is what it is, Dylan.
Yeah, I mean, we really can't expect anything else from the Bucks at this point. Pretty disappointing in their game against Miami last night, where they lost 106 to 101 after holding a 5-point halftime lead. There's a 10-point swing in the second half. Really just disappointing on all aspects of the performance. I mean, they played well in the first half, but not well enough, to be honest with you. There was a lot of opportunities where they should have really put the foot on the gas pedal and drove away with the win. But one thing that I wanted to do was instead of the MVP of the game from yesterday, I want to go with your LVP, your least valuable player in the Bucks loss.
I would say Jason Kidd, but I'll save that and I'll go with Eric Bledsoe. He had a disastrous performance yesterday against Miami Heat, and Goran Dragic, in 30 minutes, he was 2 of 13 from the floor, 11 points, 2 turnovers, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. He was a -9. He was really, really ineffective, to say the least.
Yes, I definitely concur with you. Probably going to be an unpopular pick on my behalf, but I'm actually going to go with Giannis. 6 of 15 from the floor, 8 of 15 from the free throw line at 53% from the floor. I mean, that's the game right there. Those are 7 big free throws that could have won the game. And Giannis wasn't really much of a factor late in the games. It was a lot of try to hero ball and shoot a lot of threes, whether it was Bledsoe or Middleton or whoever it was, but it wasn't Giannis. And if Giannis isn't scoring the ball in those situations, then there's definitely a problem with his utilization in those moments. So I think that especially after last night, there was definitely a bunch of backlash on Twitter about Jason Kidd and his kind of hold that he has on the team and what he actually does on a day-to-day basis. And I'm not trying to take shots at him here because he's a great basketball mind, but when you have this much talent on your team, you need to start looking at who's accountable for the lack of success.
Yeah, I mean, that rotation that he put out there at the start of the fourth quarter, it was what I call no bucket squad. Really, that really hurt the Bucks in terms of getting their offense going and finishing the game strong. And like you said, Giannis's usage rate in the fourth quarter, he was just non-existent for some reason. In a close game, you're going to need him to take over. It's not that you need him, you also want him to take over. He's the face of the franchise. Give him the ball to get it done. And also Chris Middleton, I'm fully expecting his 3-point numbers to revert to his career averages, but he can't hit an open catch and shoot 3 for the life of him this season.
He's really been struggling with that. And you're right, he really hasn't. A lot of his threes have just been on some pull up, like crazy angle, crazy release. And I don't get it. Maybe the pressure of the moment's too big for him, but you're completely right. You look at any big superstar, Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns, Porzingis, they have that one moment. And Giannis, I thought, had it last year when he hit that buzzer beater against the Knicks. But I feel like he's not been in the correct position to get that moment this year. There has to be a game where, you know what, they win on the back of Giannis. Lately, it's been, well, Giannis had his, cup of tea, 27 and 7 or whatever, and everything's fine. They either lose or they win, but it's not Giannis down the stretch. It needs to be him down the stretch. He needs to have the will. I'm going to go win this game because I'm the only one who can do it. And it's a swagger that he has to have. I mean, I saw Marcus Johnson, yeah, the Bucks color commentator in the game, he tweeted this or last night that there was someone headed to the facilities, and if you look at that overhead camera shot after the game was over, Giannis looked pissed after the loss. I would have been pissed too because you can't lose to the Heat like this.
Granted, look at the Miami Heat. They didn't have they just lost Tyler Johnson to an injury. So they've been injury riddled all season, and look what Eric Spoelstra is doing to that team. They're on a tear. I think they're in front of Miami right now in the Eastern Conference. Granted, it's early, but I'm seeing a lot of the Bucks are improving. We need to give them time. This is Jason Kidd's 4th year. The first year he went 41-41, and that's a year removed from going 15-67. So us Bucks fans, we bought into that. Those improvements are few and far in between in NBA history. So of course we were going to buy into that. But as you see the next year, 33-49, that was a huge setback, even signing after Greg Monroe from Detroit. And then last year, 42-40 with a disappointing exit to the Toronto Raptors. And this year so far, 23-21. The Bucks are not getting better, actually. Their roster is getting better, quote unquote, if you want to say that. But if you look at their numbers, offensively, they're pretty good. But defensively, it's just so hard to ignore how bad they are. And it's something that they've been bad since after Jason Kidd's first year. They still have the problems that they're having from 3 years ago. And it doesn't look like it's going to change.
Absolutely. And Hassan Whiteside and Kelly Olynyk single-handedly almost took down the Bucks interior last night. The defensive presence from John Henson and Thon Maker just isn't there. They can't control a big center. I mean, Dwight Howard, 20 rebounds. Hassan Whiteside, 27, 13, and 6 blocks. There is got to be a physical presence in there to try to get rebounds because you're not going to win these games. They could throw the ball, and the pick and roll coverages with Henson last night were just absolutely atrocious. He was caught halfway in between the ball and Whiteside, and it was a simple lob up to Whiteside, and it was 2 points. Easy as that. Every single time. Poor defense. The structure, the attitude, and maybe even the personnel. I didn't want a center at this point, but maybe.
If many of you heard Jason Kidd's comments last night after the game, him saying, the Bucks are a young team, used that excuse before, and that they played selfish. And, I really don't buy that at all because what I see when I look at the Bucks and their body language at times, I see them taking after what Jason Kidd does, where he just sits there the entire game with his hands in his lap, twiddling with his fingers, totally emotionless. And, of course, that's going to rub off on your players. You can only go so far about this energy and effort when, a lot of it relies on the coach to get your guys up for these big games. That's what good coaches do.
Yep. And then I looked towards his press conference last night, as many of us did on social media last night and watching it on Bucks Live afterwards. Coach Kidd is still referring to this team as young. Other than Giannis, Sterling, and Thon, who in our rotation is considered young? No one. No one.
See, if Jason Kidd's going to say that, look at the Boston Celtics, who are being led by a rookie and Jason Tatum. Look at their roster, Jaylen Brown. They're a legit young team, but you can't say the same for the Bucks. And I'm just so tired of that excuse. And even Chris Middleton in his comments post game yesterday said that the Bucks can't be using that as an excuse. So this is just beating a dead drum at this point. It's incredible the excuses that he piles out.
And to put the loss on your team when they lost by 5 points to the Heat in a game where there was clearly zero creation of offense after the third quarter, there was zero creation of offense. And it doesn't take a Hall of Fame point guard to see that. Me and you see that. There is no motion. So instead of, what can I do to fix this actually? How can I be innovative and try to make this so, maybe my guys are in a better situation rather than throwing him under the bus and leaving him hang out to dry and say, go figure it out. So newsflash, Jason Kidd, that's not how it works anymore. You got to be innovative. You got to be open to change. And if John Horst is listening to what the people are saying, we're telling it to him. I just don't think he wants to make that decision at this point, because who are you going to get midseason?
Right. You definitely, as much as I want Jason Kidd fired, we all know how much I despise him and his coaching staff. You know, you don't really gain anything if you fire him midseason. Then you'd probably have Joe Prunty or Sean Sweeney running the show, and that probably is a lot worse, if we're being honest, than Jason Kidd, which is pretty hard to do. But to touch on the offensive efficiency, you know, there are games where the Bucks look really good. That's when they're sharing the ball, so they did look a little selfish in the fourth quarter. But the Bucks, they don't run a systematic offense. If you look at teams like Brooklyn, Atlanta, for example, Mike Budenholzer runs a terrific offense for the
Atlanta crappy Hawks. Team.
With a crappy team, exactly. There's terrible tons of ball movement, tons of off-ball screening, and everyone is moving. When you watch the Bucks specifically in the half court, everyone is just standing around, 4 players on the perimeter waiting for Giannis to do something. That's why if the Bucks aren't forcing turnovers and getting out in the open, they're not going to win. They're not going to win because they're such a poorly coached offensive team in the half court. They don't run a system. That's why they fail in the half court many times.
And even the Bucks players are getting a little agitated with it. Chris Middleton was asked if he thinks the Bucks are a young team, and he said, yeah, we're a young team, but that can't be an excuse. That's been the excuse for the 5 years since he's been there. Chris, and I forgot who I talked about it with. Chris Middleton, if he was on another team, would be a surefire all-star because he'd be put in the right situation.
Look, a lot of this Chris Middleton hate on Twitter it's very irrationalized. The Bucks don't have an offensive system, so a lot of the time Chris is forced to, you know, take a tough shot in the post or isolation. You know, I don't enjoy watching Chris Middleton isolate and create for his own. I like the Chris Middleton coming off of screens, off-ball movement, but, you know, we're not treated to that because the Bucks don't run a basic offense. It's sad. This is elementary. You know. Look at the perfect example, the Miami Heat. They do a ton of dribble handoffs. That gets them a ton of open looks. If they don't have the open look, they do a little pick and roll off the dribble handoff. What they do, they execute an offense to perfection. And you compare that to the Bucks. The Bucks, it looks like, you know, a bunch of 7th graders are out there.
Yep. And the Heat won last night with not a single player playing over 35 minutes. If that's not coaching and utilization of your roster and putting them in good situations, I don't know what is. Bam Adebayo played 19 minutes last night. A rookie. 19 minutes.
You know, if you're a Bucks fan and you're not sick of what's been going on, then I really don't know what to tell you. The last time the Milwaukee Bucks were relevant, let's be honest here, 2001. This is 2018. As a Bucks fan, you know, we all share this common suffering. Guess what? It's not getting better, and it doesn't look like it's getting better. How could you not be sick with what's going on with this franchise? We have the most transcendent talent since LeBron James. And look at us, 23-21. Are we even in the playoff picture right now? Or are we behind Indiana? What's the deal there?
We're 7th. We are half a game out of the 8th spot in front of the Pistons for the 8th spot. So we are 7th right now.
And, you know, this is what Herb Cole got a lot of grief for is, gunning for the 8th seed. Well, hey, guess what, Bucks fans? Guess where we're at? The perennial 8th seed.
Yep. That's about right. The perennial 8th seed, indeed. I'm very frustrated with everything that is going on in the Bucks, but if there is a glimmer of hope left in me, which they have been beating it out of me lately, is that the Bucks schedule is remarkably easy for the rest of the way. I believe I could count less than 10 games of maybe a quarter of the games left are probably unwinnable games. And with Jabari Parker coming back, who knows? That could be the shot of adrenaline this team needs. You know, Charles Barkley even said that he's I mean, I don't know what he's on, but he did say that in regards to the Cavs not making the finals, he says he wants to see what the Bucks do. I think they do kind of match up well with Cleveland in some aspects, but the intangibles are just very outweighed, and it's kind of barbaric to think that they would even stand a chance in a series with the Cavs. But this is the time. They bought in on Eric Bledsoe. They got rid of that a first round pick, Greg Monroe. This is the next until the All-Star break is where you decide where this team's direction's going.
You're right. Jabari Parker, he's going to help the Bucks, but to be honest with you, I don't know how much he's going to help. He's a great player. What he brings to the table, he's a freak athlete. Even after 2 torn ACLs, I still believe in him. And we've seen from highlight videos from his workouts that he still has that bounce, score. But it's going to be the issue is going to be the defensive end still.
He does look. I will note that in those videos, he does look a little bit lighter. He looks a little more in shape, which was kind of a problem ever since he got drafted. So, I mean, if he does stay in shape, though, I think that will also help with his agility and kind of speed and maybe longevity. But you're right. There's no question that on the defensive end of the floor that it's going to be tough going for Jabari. He'll be put in situations, as I highlighted in my last article on Cream City Central about the Cavs matchup. I mean, he's going to have to play big sometimes. And in a small ball lineup, he's going to have to be able to guard legitimate 4s and 5s. And I think, does he have the strength still with that reduction of weight? I think so. I'd like to think so. But I guess we can never – it's all speculation until – he suits up and we actually see him consistently out there.
Right, and like you said, the Bucks are going to benefit a lot when they move him back into the starting lineup, presumably, that they're going to go small, and I think that's when the Milwaukee Bucks are at their best, is when they play a small lineup, where there's going to be probably Giannis at the 5. I think that's going to set them up for success. And another thing I wanted to touch on is I think it's time for Malcolm Brogdon to go back to the bench. I'm a big Brogdon fan, but I think the Bledsoe Brogdon backcourt isn't a experiment that's going well per se.
Do you think that relies more so on Tony Snell, or do you think it relies more so on when Jabari Parker comes back?
I think this is just more of a Tony Snell thing for me. He looked really good yesterday, and of course, really didn't play much in the second half for some reason that I don't know. But I think you benefit more defensively because Brogdon, he's 6'5", but he is a little undersized to be playing the 2. He will get outmatched most nights. We all know he's a good defender, but I think you really do benefit more, especially from Tony Snell's shooting ability. He's been in a slump, but he looks like he's breaking out.
Yeah, and that's just starting, I guess, too. I mean, if you want to put Brogdon and Bledsoe out there, that's fine, but maybe not necessarily to start it out. I think you're kind of hitting on something that's important, that the matchups that will be available when Jabari comes back, the flexibility will really be something that we can kind of take advantage of, I think, because we have a lineup to go against pretty much any team. They say, like, oh, we're good against the Warriors, we're good for the Cavs. Like, we really are. It's just about getting out there and playing like it,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And when Jabari comes back, that's going to alleviate a lot of pressure off the bench as well. It's going to take some minutes off of Chris and Giannis, but I still fully expect them to play mid-30s, which is, at this point, Chris and Giannis are leading the league in minutes. So any reduction really isn't going to be much of a reduction anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that was a lot to get off the chest. Probably a lot of anger you want to get out before your birthday tonight. Do you want to drop the Shepherd Express Milwaukee Minute real fast?
Yeah, so the Shepherd Express Milwaukee Minute, of course, brought to you by our good friends over at shepherdexpress.com. So I enjoy the sweeter things in life. Dylan, I'm sure you do as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you should head on down to C. Adams Bakery in the Milwaukee Public Market. Sheila Jolison of shepherdexpress.com does a beautiful profile on the bakery, listing the different assortments of treats to choose from. whether it be brownies, cookies, and cakes. They just have a ton of different flavors to choose from. It looks delicious. So, Dylan, I might have to have you go over there. I'll Venmo you some money. Send me over some brownies if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. I suppose that could be a nice birthday present.
Right. So
Uh,
head on over to shepherdexpress.com, click on the food tab, and check out that food profile from Sheila.
yeah, thanks for Shepherd Express once again. We have a game at Philadelphia on Saturday. And then we go against a very winnable slate of three: Phoenix, Brooklyn, and Chicago next. We'll for sure talk to you before then. Very, very good thing tonight. Andrew's going to be headed to Vegas for the weekend, so hopefully he wins big.
Yes,
Hopefully,
cross your fingers.
cross your fingers, say your prayers. Hopefully your gambling is consistent, unlike your age number relation to the Bucks.
Well, let's just say I'll be drowning my Milwaukee Bucks sorrows in some vodka, so I'll pour one up for all of the Bucks Nation over there.
Attaboy, thanks very much. Talk to you later. You can hit me up at Dylan Piccolo 35. Andrew's going to be at Andrew_Goodman3. CreamCityCentral.com and at Cream City Central is where you're going to find all of our listings, all of our live tweeting, all that cool stuff going on. So once again, I want to thank you for listening, and go Bucks.
Win or lose.